It was a brilliant day in the heart of the Congo Basin. The air was thick with the sounds of life, the calls of brightly colored birds, the rustling of the giant trees, and the distant hum of insects. The towering trees formed a canopy that filtered the sunlight, creating a greenish glow on the forest floor. The mighty Congo River, its waters shimmering in the midday sun, cut through the jungle like a winding serpent, bringing life and sustenance to the people who had called this land home for generations. Nala and Kato, two young leaders of their village, stood ready to defend that home. News had traveled fast. There were whispers of a powerful king from a faraway land called Belgium, a king who was looking to claim the riches of the Congo for himself. This was no ordinary threat, and both Nala and Kato knew that this could be their most dangerous challenge yet.
Nala, we must prepare. The elders say the strangers are coming with more than words. They bring chains and guns. This is no longer a rumor.
I have heard, Kato, but fear cannot guide our hearts. We must protect the Congo, our people, and the land that gave us life. We are its children.
But how do we fight what we don't understand? The stories say they have ships larger than the tallest trees and weapons that crack like thunder. I've never seen such power.
We fight with what we know. The land is our ally. The spirit of the Congo runs through our veins, and that is more powerful than any weapon. These men do not know the jungle like we do. They do not feel the heartbeat of this land.
Kato's eyes softened, but his resolve remained. The air around them was thick with tension, the weight of the unknown pressing down on their shoulders. Word had spread like wildfire from village to village. King Leopold II, a ruler from a distant kingdom, sought to claim the Congo for himself. He did not come as a friend or ally, but as a conqueror. What had begun as a faint whisper had now become a looming storm, casting a shadow over the peaceful villages of the Congo. Leopold's men were not here to explore or trade. They came to exploit, to take the land, the ivory, the rubber, and the people. Nala and Kato were determined to resist, but they were only two in a sea of uncertainty. How could they fight against such power?
The White King seeks to take our land, our freedom. He speaks of trade and friendship, but his hands are stained with the blood of other lands. We have seen what they do. We have heard the stories from the coast.
We cannot let him take what is ours. The Congo has always been free, and its people are proud. If we allow them to enter, they will not leave. We must unite the villages and resist, or everything we know will be lost.
If we do not stop them now, our children will grow up in chains. They will know only the taste of servitude.
The elders exchanged heavy, knowing glances, the flickering fire casting long, shifting shadows on their weathered faces, deepening the lines carved by years of wisdom and hardship. The weight of the situation pressed down on them like a gathering storm, thick with uncertainty. They had lived through many seasons, seen both the triumph of wars won and the fragile peace that followed, but nothing as ominous as this new threat. The men from across the sea were unlike any they had encountered before. They came with intentions wrapped in smooth words, masked by smiles and empty promises. Yet, behind their eyes, the elders saw the unmistakable gleam of greed and a bottomless hunger for power. The Congo's vast riches, its gleaming ivory, its boundless supply of rubber, and the wild, untamed beauty of its wilderness had captured the ambition of Leopold II, a foreign king with a thirst for domination. He wanted it all for himself and his empire, and he would stop at nothing to seize it, regardless of the devastating cost to the land, its people, and their way of life. The elders could feel the winds of change coming, harsh and unforgiving.
The jungle is our greatest weapon. We know the rivers, the trees, the hidden paths. The land has protected us for generations. It will protect us now, but we must act quickly. We must send word to the other villages. If we stand together, we can stop them.
We must be smart, not just brave. They come with fire and steel, but the spirit of the Congo is stronger. It runs deeper than any of their machines or guns.
The elders sat in a heavy, contemplative silence for a long moment. the crackling fire casting sparks into the cool night air. Each elder, weathered by time and experience, reflected deeply on the gravity of their young leader's words. Nala and Kato had spoken the truth. The moment for decisive action had come, and any hesitation could cost them their land, their freedom, and their future. The villages, once separated by distance, custom, and the rhythm of their own lives, would now need to intertwine their fates like the resilient vines that crept silently through the dense forest, binding the trees in an unbreakable embrace. They would need each other now more than ever. The spirits of their ancestors who had defended this sacred land for countless generations would guide their hands, sharpen their resolve, and fortify their hearts as they prepared for the difficult and uncertain fight that lay ahead. As the council meeting ends, Nal and Kato step outside into the cool night air. The jungle hums with life, the stars glittering like diamonds above them. The fire's glow fades as they walk toward the river once more, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the battle ahead.
Do you think we'll win, Nala?
I don't know, Kato, but we have no choice. The Congo is our home and we must defend it, no matter the cost.
With the weight of responsibility heavy on their young shoulders, Nala and Kato stood side by side, gazing out over the vast, untamed wilderness that had always been their home. In the quiet of the night, beneath the canopy of stars, they made a silent vow to protect the Congo at all costs. The road ahead would be treacherous, filled with battles and hardships they could scarcely imagine. But they were not alone. The very spirit of the land, the pulse of the rivers, the whisper of the trees, would be their ally. The strength of their people, born from generations of resilience, and the timeless wisdom of the elders would guide them through the darkest moments. Whatever happened, they knew they would stand tall, unbowed for the Congo. The shadow of Leopold's greed-driven ambitions had fallen like a dark cloud over their land. But in the hearts of Nao, Kato, and their people, the light of resistance had only just begun to shine, strong, unwavering, and unafraid. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing sunrise, the tension within the village grew thicker. The elders spoke in hushed voices around the fire at night, and the air felt heavy with the unknown. Then one day, they arrived, Leopold's men, led by the infamous explorer Henry Morton Stanley. His name was already whispered through the villages, carried by travelers and messengers. They said he had charted rivers no one dared cross, and now he had come to chart the fate of the Congo. Stanley and his expedition arrived on the shores of the Congo with wide smiles and baskets of gifts, bright beads, mirrors that sparkled in the sunlight, and colorful fabrics. But behind their friendly faces, Nal and Kato saw something darker, something hungry. Greed disguised as generosity. The air buzzed with an unspoken threat. Stanley's mission, under the orders of King Leopold II, was to claim the Congo. Their presence was masked as a noble endeavor, a mission of peace and civilization. But Nala and Kato knew better. They could feel the true purpose beneath the surface, like the crocodiles that lurked beneath the waters of the river, waiting to strike. From the safety of the trees, Nala and Kato crouched low, their bodies hidden beneath the thick, leafy canopy. Their eyes were locked on the strange boats gliding silently up the Congo River. The boats were unlike anything they had ever seen before. Massive wooden monsters that sliced through the water, their sails billowing like ghostly wings. Men with long oars paddled in unison, while others stood at the helm, guiding the vessels forward with a quiet, eerie determination. The men aboard wore strange, heavy clothing that shimmered in the sunlight, and many carried long, shining objects, rifles, the elders had called them, weapons capable of death from a distance, weapons of destruction. The boats came closer, and Nara felt a deep chill run down her spine, a coldness that clung to her like a mist. She glanced at Kato, whose face was twisted with worry, his brow furrowed as he watched the invaders approach. There was no mistaking it now. These men were here for more than trade.
Look at their weapons. They bring nothing but destruction.
They speak of treaties, But their eyes tell a different story. They are not here to trade, Kato. They are here to take what is ours.
Nal's words hung heavily in the humid air, lingering like the tension that gripped their hearts as they continued to watch from their hidden perch in the thick jungle. Stanley's boats docked on the muddy riverbank with a slow, deliberate grace, the sound of wood scraping against the earth sending a shiver through the trees. His men, moving with practiced efficiency, began unloading crates filled with bright trinkets, beads that shimmered in the sunlight, and strange supplies that the villagers had never seen before. They waved and smiled, their gestures overly friendly, their voices filled with false warmth, pretending to offer peace and prosperity. But Nal and Kato could see past their polished smiles and empty words. They saw the greed lurking beneath the surface, the cold calculation in their eyes. The danger that had once been a distant rumor, whispered through the villages, had now taken shape and was standing on their shores, real and menacing. The invasion had begun. The village gathered at the edge of the clearing as Stanley and his men approached, the soft murmur of whispers threading through the crowd. The air was thick with tension, almost suffocating, though the villagers, drawn by curiosity, tried to mask their unease with polite smiles and quiet observation. Stanley, with his pale skin glistening under the relentless heat of the Congo sun, stepped forward confidently, smiling broadly as if he were a friend long expected. His men followed closely behind, their arms laden with colorful trinkets and gleaming beads, presenting these offerings to the village leaders as though they were tokens of goodwill, meant to dazzle and distract. But the elders were wary, their brows furrowed in suspicion as they eyed the newcomers, their faces guarded like stone. They had seen such promises before, and they knew the danger of such gifts. Nal and Kato stood in the shadow of the trees, their bodies hidden, yet their eyes fixed on Stanley, watching every move, every gesture, waiting for the mask of kindness to slip.
King Leopold, my master, wishes to help your people. He has heard of the richness of your land and the strength of your warriors. He offers you protection from your enemies and the promise of trade, wealth, and friendship. All we ask is your agreement to allow us to stay, so we may work together.
And what do you take in return?
Only what you no longer need, your ivory, your rubber. It will bring great wealth to your people. Your village will thrive as it has never thrived before.
Stanley's words were sweet like honey, dripping with charm and promises of prosperity. But beneath the surface, Nal and Kato could taste the sharp bitterness of deceit. His voice was too smooth, his smile too wide, and they knew better than to be fooled by such empty promises. The elders exchanged wary, silent glances, their eyes betraying the growing unease they felt. They understood that the gifts laid before them, gleaming beads and trinkets, came at a steep price, one that would cost more than the village could ever afford. The Congo's vast riches, its gleaming ivory, its precious rubber, even its people were not Leopold's to take. Yet here his men stood, speaking as if they were saviors, when all they sought was to strip the land of its soul. From their hidden vantage point among the thick jungle foliage, Nala and Kato exchanged tense glances, their hearts pounding in unison with a shared sense of urgency. The elders, though wise, might not yet have seen the full picture, blinded by the promises of prosperity and the false smiles of their visitors. But Nal and Kato knew exactly what Stanley and his men were after. The so-called trade they offered was nothing more than a veiled robbery, cleverly disguised with gifts and empty words. Once these men were allowed to stay, they would sink their claws into the land and they would never leave. The Congo would be theirs to exploit until there was nothing left.
Lies. They want everything, Nala. The ivory, the rubber, even our people.
We have to act soon. If we don't stop them, the Congo will become their playground. The land, the rivers, everything we cherish, it will all be theirs.
The weight of the realization pressed down on them like a heavy storm cloud, dark and suffocating. The truth was undeniable. Leopold's men had not come to offer peace or friendship. They had come to pillage the land, to strip it of its precious riches, enslave its people, and drain the Congo of every resource it possessed until nothing remained. Nala and Kato could feel the urgency of the moment rising like a river in their chests, threatening to overflow. The time for resistance was fast approaching, and they knew they would need to act swiftly before the chance to protect their home slipped through their fingers forever. Stanley continued speaking to the village leaders, flashing his wide, practiced smile as he praised the beauty of the Congo and the strength of its people. His words were like a poisonous vine, winding their way into the hearts of the villagers, wrapping them in a false sense of security. The elders nodded slowly, torn between the allure of the gifts and the warning signs they sensed beneath the surface. The villagers, watching from a distance, murmured among themselves, uncertain of what to believe. Some were captivated by the stranger's promises, while others eyed them with suspicion. Nala and Kato could feel the divide beginning to form.
We are a proud people and we cherish our freedom. If we allow you to stay, what guarantee do we have that you will not take more than you offer?
You have my word, and the word of King Leopold. We are men of honor. We only wish to help you prosper.
Their promises are as hollow as their hearts. We must warn the others before it's too late.
As Stanley's men mingled with the villagers, Nala and Kato could see the seeds of deception being planted. The time for words was over. Soon the village would need to choose whether to trust these men or stand against them. Nala and Kato knew the truth. They had to resist, or the Congo would be lost forever. As the golden hues of the setting sun cast long shadows over the Congo, the village was cloaked in silence. The dense jungle buzzed with the sounds of evening life. But beneath that familiar symphony, a tension hung thick in the air. The elders, wise and weary, gathered in secret under the towering trees, their faces lit only by the faint glow of a small fire. They had seen through Stanley's hollow promises and knew that his offers of peace and prosperity were nothing more than a thin veil for greed and domination. Their land, their people, would not be taken without a fight. Nal and Kato stood tall among them, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows on their determined faces. They were ready to lead, ready to resist. The people of the Congo would not be enslaved without defending their home. Deep within the heart of the jungle, in a hidden clearing surrounded by towering trees and thick underbrush, Nala, Kato, and the village elders gathered in the cool, damp evening air. The dense canopy above allowed only faint streaks of twilight to filter through, leaving the clearing bathed in shadows. The fire crackled softly, casting flickering light that barely pierced the darkening sky. The flames danced and sputtered, sending occasional sparks into the humid air. The elders sat in a tight circle, their faces lined with worry, their expressions grave as they listened to Nal's determined words. The village had been preparing for this moment, their resolve growing, but time was running short. More of Leopold's men would soon arrive, armed with deadly weapons forged far from their shores, and they could not afford to wait any longer. Every second they hesitated could cost them their land, their freedom, and their future.
We must act now, before they bring more men. The land has always protected us and it will again, but only if we stand united. If we hesitate, we risk losing everything.
We will show them that the spirit of the Congo is stronger than their guns. This is our land, and they will not take it from us without paying a steep price.
The other villages are ready. We have sent word and they will fight alongside us. We will not go quietly into chains. But remember, their weapons are strong. This battle will be hard and many may fall.
A heavy silence followed his words, but it was not one of fear or hesitation. It was the solemn silence of a people preparing for war, a people determined to fight for their freedom no matter the cost. The fire flickered, casting shadows on their faces, and the weight of the moment pressed down on them like the humid jungle air. The elders exchanged knowing glances, their expressions hardened with resolve. and Nala and Kato stood firm, their backs straight and eyes unyielding. They knew the dangers that lay ahead, the brutal force of the enemy, but they also knew that the land was their greatest ally. The jungle, thick, untamed, and full of hidden secrets, would protect them, shield them like an ancient guardian. It was time to act, time to defend their home with every fiber of their being. Under the cover of night, the villagers worked tirelessly to prepare for the battle ahead. Nala and Kato led the warriors, moving swiftly through the dense jungle. The sounds of their quiet movements blended seamlessly with the natural rhythm of the forest. The people of the Congo knew this land better than anyone. Every hidden path, every twisted vine, every river and stream. They would use this knowledge to their advantage. The jungle, which had been their protector for generations, would now become their weapon. The villagers began setting traps, using sharpened stakes hidden beneath layers of leaves and carefully placed pits to ensnare the invaders. Nets woven from vines hung high in the trees, waiting to fall on unsuspecting soldiers.
They won't know what hit them. Let them come with their guns and their false promises. We'll show them the true power of this land.
We fight not just for ourselves, Kato. We fight for the generations that will follow us. If we fall today, we must ensure that tomorrow our children will stand free.
As they worked, the villagers moved like shadows, silent and swift, blending seamlessly into the dense jungle around them. Their movements were purposeful, each task carried out with the precision of a people who knew their land intimately. They whispered quiet words of encouragement to one another, their voices barely audible above the rustling leaves, yet filled with determination. Their spirits were lifted by the shared understanding that they were protecting not only their homes, but their very way of life. Though the enemy marched with greater numbers and wielded more advanced weapons, the people of the Congo possessed something far more powerful, an unbreakable bond with the land that had nurtured them for generations. It was a connection rooted in the soil, the rivers, and the ancient trees that surrounded them, a force stronger than any rifle or army. The night passed in tense anticipation, and when dawn broke, it brought with it the sound of approaching footsteps. Stanley's men, unaware of the trap set for them, marched confidently into the jungle, their rifles slung across their backs, and their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of resistance. They had no idea that the jungle itself was watching them. The first trap was sprung almost immediately. A group of soldiers pushing their way through the thick undergrowth suddenly disappeared into a pit lined with sharpened stakes. Their screams echoed through the trees as the others scrambled to help them, only to be caught in a net that fell from above, entangling them in a web of vines.
Look at them, Nala. They're like blind men stumbling through the dark. They have no idea what awaits them.
This is only the beginning, Kato. We cannot become overconfident. They will send more men and they will be more prepared next time.
Stanley's men, disoriented and frightened by the jungle's sudden attack, struggled to regroup. But they were no match for the land itself. Nala and Kato watched from the shadows as the soldiers tried to escape the traps. But it was clear that the people of the Congo had gained the upper hand in this first encounter. When the battle subsided, the jungle was eerily quiet once more. Stanley's men, those who had survived, retreated, leaving behind their dead and wounded. The villagers emerged from the shadows, their faces grim but triumphant. They had won the first battle, but they knew this was far from over. Leopold would not accept defeat so easily. Nala and Kato stood together at the edge of the clearing, their hearts heavy with both victory and the knowledge of the battles to come.
We won today, but they will return, with more men, with more weapons.
Yes, and when they come, we will be ready again. This fight is far from over, Kato, but we fight with the land at our side. We will protect it until our last breath.
The sun began to set once more, casting a red glow over the jungle. The people of the Congo had won the first battle, but the war was only beginning. They knew that more blood would be spilled, and that the fight for their home, their freedom, and their future would be long and difficult. But they were ready. The spirit of the Congo burned within them, fierce and unyielding. Leopold's men may have had guns and power, but the people of the Congo had something far greater, the unbreakable bond with the land that had given them life, and they would fight to protect it until the very end. Despite the brave and relentless efforts of Nala, Kato, and the villagers, the flood of soldiers and traders that followed in Stanley's wake seemed unending. An overwhelming force that the people of the Congo could not stop. The jungle, once a haven of safety and secrecy, no longer provided enough protection from the sheer might of Leopold II's vast forces, which moved relentlessly through the land like a plague. Far away in Belgium, Leopold, a king whose greed knew no bounds and whose ambitions were monstrous, had claimed the Congo as his personal possession, a place of unimaginable wealth and beauty, but one that he saw only as a means to enrich himself. Under his cruel and oppressive rule, millions of Congolese people would suffer unimaginable horrors, their lives crushed under the weight of forced labor, brutal violence, and heartless exploitation. The land, once vibrant and free, would weep under the reign of a tyrant who valued only its riches. Nala and Kato stood on a high hill, looking out over the vast landscape that had once been theirs. From their vantage point, they could see the village below, and beyond it, a long line of men marching through the dense jungle, their uniforms stark against the green foliage. More of Leopold's men had arrived, soldiers with rifles slung across their backs and traders carrying supplies that signaled the beginning of a new, dark era for the Congo. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a blood-red glow over the scene, as if the land itself was weeping. Nala's heart was heavy, her body weary from the endless fight. Kato, standing beside her, clenched his fists as he stared at the invaders, his jaw tight with barely contained fury. They had fought so hard, yet it seemed as though the tide of colonization was unstoppable.
We did all we could, Kato. We fought with everything we had, but they are too many.
We will never stop fighting. Even if it takes generations, we will reclaim our land. We will never let them win.
We must stay strong for the future. The Congo spirit is still alive, Kato, and no matter what happens, we will keep fighting. Leopold's colonization of the Congo would go down in history as one of the darkest and most brutal chapters in Africa's long and storied past. Under his oppressive rule, millions of Congolese people were forced into backbreaking labor, often in rubber plantations, and subjected to unspeakable cruelties. The land that had once been rich with life was drained of its resources, its beauty turned into profit for a distant king. Ivory, rubber, and minerals were ripped from the earth, leaving the people with nothing but pain and hardship. But even in the face of this overwhelming oppression, the spirit of resistance lived on. Nala and Kato, along with others like them, refused to bow to tyranny. Though they were outnumbered and outgunned, their courage and determination to protect the Congo's heart never wavered. As Leopold's men established control over the land, setting up camps and marking territory, Nala and Kato made the difficult decision to retreat deeper into the jungle. The fight had not ended for them, it had simply changed. They knew they could not defeat the invaders head-on, but they could continue to resist in other ways, keeping the spirit of the Congo alive in their hearts and in the hearts of those who followed them. The jungle, still vast and untamed in many parts, became their refuge once again. As they moved through the thick foliage, the sounds of the invading forces grew fainter, and the familiar hum of the jungle surrounded them once more. The birds called from the treetops, and the river flowed steadily, as if reminding them that, despite everything, the land was still theirs. The Congo is still ours, Kato. No king, no matter how powerful, can take that from us. The land remembers its people.
And one day we will be free again. They may have taken our villages, but they will never take our spirit.
Though Nala and Kato's efforts could not stop the flood of colonization, Their story became a powerful symbol of resistance. Their courage and unwavering determination in the face of impossible odds echoed through the ages, inspiring future generations to fight for their freedom and for the right to live on their own land. The Congo, scarred and wounded, would one day rise again. For years, the people would tell the story of Nala and Kato, the two brave souls who stood against a king and refused to bow, even when the world seemed to be against them. Their bravery became a beacon of hope, a reminder that the fight for freedom never truly ends, and that no amount of force could ever extinguish the spirit of a people bound to their land. Years passed, and though the Congo suffered deeply under the crushing weight of colonization, the seeds of resistance that Nala and Kato had planted in the heart of the jungle began to grow, nurtured by the quiet determination of their people. Their story, once whispered in the shadows, spread from village to village, carried by those who remembered their bravery and their fight for freedom. It became more than just a tale. It became a symbol of defiance, an anthem of hope that inspired future generations to resist oppression in all its brutal forms. Even as Leopold and his men continued to exploit the land, draining its resources and breaking its people, the indomitable spirit of the Congo lived on in the hearts of those who dared to fight back. Nala and Kato's legacy endured through the years, a legacy built on courage, unyielding strength, and the unwavering belief that freedom was worth every sacrifice, no matter how long the struggle took or how many battles were fought. The flame of resistance they had ignited would burn brightly through the darkest times, lighting the way for those yet to come.
We may not see the day when the Congo is free again, Kato, but we will be part of the story. The fight we started will live on in our people.
Though they could not see it yet, the resistance that Nala and Kato had begun would continue to grow, fueled by the undying hope that one day the Congo would rise from the ashes of colonization. Their bravery and determination would echo through the years, reminding all who heard their story that the fight for freedom is never truly lost, so long as there are those willing to stand and fight. And so, while Leopold II and his men tried to claim the Congo as their own, they could never truly possess it. The land belonged to its people, and no matter how much blood was spilled, that truth would remain unshakable forever.